I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order on August 3rd, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Present are council members Kelly, Limpert, Broussard, Williamson, and Heeman, the mayor, our law director, our planning and development director, and our human resources director, our clerk of council, and our guests this evening. The purpose of tonight's meeting is first to get an update from our clerk regarding the ward redistricting that is required here in the city of North Olmsted, and then also to get an update from the administration regarding the situation with our city servers and IT that we've had to deal with over the past few months. So Clerk Massarolo, if you could please begin.
Thank you, Madam President. In 2011, Council looked at using two potential vendors and settled on for ward redistricting and settled on Bob Dykes with Triad. This year, the two groups are working together, so the only group I was able to find was Triad. I have spoken several times with Mr. Dykes and our Department of Law about moving forward during our July recess. Mr. Dykes is putting together a proposal for Council to look at, and it should arrive sometime this week. He told me his proposal will be a base payment of $2,500 with a not-to-exceed clause of $8,000. He said in the past it has ended up costing around $4,000 to $5,000, and he would expect it to end up about the same this time as well. In talking with him, I told him that there's been some concern about streets being divided down the middle. He said it is possible to keep streets together, but the Census Bureau does not provide the necessary data to do that without making additional estimates. He said this would significantly raise the cost, and while he doesn't know exactly what it would be, it would go over the $8,000. If this is the way Council wished to proceed, he would need to redo his proposal. My plan right now is to forward the proposal to all of Council once I get it and give everyone a chance to look it over. If any Council members have any questions regarding it, please let me know, and I'll be happy to do my best to respond. Just as a timeline for Council, it is my understanding the data is expected to be released on August 16th. It will probably take a few days for the Secretary of State to officially notify us of the data. According to Article 9, Section 5 of our Charter, within 3 months of the issuance of the proclamation by the Secretary of State certifying the population of the city, the Council shall redistrict the city into 4 wards. In talking with Mr. Dykes, he said he does have some work with the state that would need to come first, but he would be able to start working on our maps by October and ensure we have them done in plenty of time. The plan right now would be to get everyone the proposal as soon as I get it and to have Council vote on it at the August 17th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions at this point from council members? And also let the record reflect that Councilman Glassburn has joined the meeting. If council members, you do have questions, please feel free to reach out to Clerk Mazzarolo regarding this issue over the next few weeks, and then we will look forward to having that discussion in committee. Next on our agenda is a computer network update. Mayor, could you please just give council a brief description of what happened to cause the city server to go down in late June and then for most of the month of July?
Well, I'll let Ms. Gallo, who's in charge of IT, go ahead and give you the report.
Director Gallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Can you hear me?
Yes.
An employee had been going through old emails and opened an email that was, I believe, malware, and it took down our server for nearly a month.
All right. Thank you. Approximately how many days was the server down?
It was about a month.
Thank you. And do we have, Mayor or Director, do we have the approximate number of hours that it took IT to work on this and to recover the information?
The information technology person, Eric Lumberg, he documents all of his time. It was nearly 400 hours.
And Mayor, do we have an estimate as to how many employee hours were lost without access to the server?
I don't have an estimate on that, but I can get you that. This is a pretty common occurrence. In speaking with Eric today, and him giving me the data, there's a lot of employees that have clicked on things that have screwed up our computer system. So it's something that we have to work on from the end user standpoint. And also, I'll be meeting with Marie and Eric and Carrie, and we're going to sit down and figure out perhaps maybe a better system to which we could do things.
Thank you. And Mayor, has security, IT training been required of our employees or been offered?
We have had plenty of IT training. It's just something that every organization faces. It's just a matter of, no one intends to do it, but they happen to click on something that infects their computer.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williamson?
Thank you, Madam President. Director Gallo, do we know where this virus came from? Was the employee looking at personal mail? Was it city mail?
It was city email.
Okay. And was it just one employee, an instance with one employee, or did it happen more than once?
This past one that took the server down was one employee.
How many times this year has this happened?
How many what? I'm sorry.
How many times this year has our server been taken down because of an issue like this?
I believe it was at least 2 times this year.
And
In the past, and it happens at least once a year, but this year it's been several times. And once something like that filters through, the city becomes a target.
Thank you.
Council members, any additional questions at this time? Thank you. Thank you, Director Gallo, and thank you, Mayor. We'll schedule a follow-up meeting then to get that question answered, and then if council has additional questions, we'll make sure to get those over to you regarding the computer network. Thank you. Seeing no other questions from council, we will conclude our committee meeting at 7:37 p.m. and caucus will begin at 7:45 p.m. I would like to call the caucus meeting of August 3rd, 2021 to order. Present are council members Heeman, Williamson, Brassard, Limpert, Glassburn, and Kelly. The mayor, the law director, the finance director, human resources director, planning and development director, our clerk of council, and our guests this evening. Are there any additions or corrections to the caucus meeting minutes of June 15th, 2021? Seeing none. Council, we have one piece of legislation on tonight's agenda for suspension of the rules. That is on first reading. It is ordinance 2021-48, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Law to execute all documents on behalf of the City of North Olmsted to authorize settlement of claims arising from opioid litigation and declaring an emergency. Director Garreau.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry for the late notice on this. We had received the letter on the 2nd from Litigation Counsel, Class Action Litigation Counsel, requesting authorization to resolve the claim. In terms of settling claims where the city is to receive money, the code does not authorize me to proceed above $5,000. Most of the times we're litigating to defend ourselves or we're seeking injunctive or declaratory relief. But in this instance, the claim is in excess of the codified ordinances of the City of North Olmsted, so consent of council would be necessary. I did provide to you, I hope you received the summary of proposed settlement terms that you had received. That was provided to me by Class Action Litigation Counsel. In sum, this is one Ohio concept that they decided to aggregate for purposes of negotiating a settlement as many municipalities in the state of Ohio and other governmental entities as they could possibly assemble who were also party plaintiffs under one negotiating umbrella. With that authority, the negotiations took place with three entities: McKesson, Amerisource, Bergen, and Cardinal Health. Those are the big three distributors this involves. The negotiations went on throughout the past year, essentially for the past 6 months. And they were able to come to a resolution with the defendant, those three named defendants. As I provided to you information, it's kind of broken down into the state of Ohio would receive a component, the local municipalities will receive a component, and then there's these foundations, these regional entities that will be 501c3s that will be administering settlement proceeds for opioid treatment and for opioid addiction avoidance programs and things of that nature. So it's 30% to local governments, 55% to the foundation, which is regional, and then 15% to the state of Ohio. There is an 11% fee cost for purposes of the Class Action Council. So what the money can be spent on, if it's approved, is kind of took some notes here quickly on that. There's evidence-based forward-looking strategies, programming services used to expand availability for treatment for individuals affected by substance abuse, develop use prevention strategies, use avoidance and awareness education, decrease supply of illicit opioids, and support recovery for addiction services. So while the city would be in a position to receive funding, it's not as though the funding can be used on whatever you wish to use it on. It's going to be dedicated to the purposes that are put forward there, and it's going to be paid out over time. It's not going to be paid out lump sum, and it can change. But I'm not going to disclose the amount of money publicly here because this is still being negotiated. But I did indicate what that number was to you folks in an attorney-client confidential memo. And I would appreciate not discussing that here now, but I can tell you that that's where the situation stands. So they require and have requested authorization and consent. We don't have to do this. We could stay out of it. However, as you can see from the One Ohio summary proposed settlement terms, It really is their objective to get as high as you possibly can a percentage of participating entities to agree, because that will increase the amount of money that's made available to the state of Ohio and expedite the process, and also money available to the cities. There's two tiers for the city of North Olmsted. There's a lower number and a higher number. The more local entities that participate, the lower the risk to the defendants, and then the more funding that's available for purposes of those substance abuse issues that we could do. So it's optional, but it's my recommendation that you do authorize me to proceed with that. It's something that I'm pleased that we've received anything, because it's not something that I anticipated in the beginning of this when I first spoke to you many years ago, that we would be in a position to receive any funding. So in my opinion, it's really found money that we can use for the benefit of the residents of the city of North Olmsted who've experienced opioid addiction, their families, those who are currently struggling, those who are in recovery, and we can make education awareness programs to assist those to avoid it in the future. So it's in my opinion, I think it's a good result. It's a good opportunity for us to secure some funding. It's not life-changing funding for the city of North Olmsted, but it's something that I think we can make something good out of an otherwise terrible situation. I will say that the funding mechanism as well, there is the regions that I spoke of that will be available. There's a lot more money going to them, and they will overlap the city of North Olmsted. So there's also funding available for the region, which would include the city of North Olmsted, which provide additional opportunities. Those foundations, as they're called, the bigger entities that are going to have a board of governors for how to spend that money. They're going to have a governing body, a 501c3. They'll also have experts on board to assist in formulating programs. There's a lot of money going to them throughout the state of Ohio. There's a total of 19. And those 19 regions, some are single counties and some are multiple counties, will also provide another layer for the city to, for something good to come out of something that's been quite tragic. So it's an important step in the right direction. I think it's a good idea to proceed with it. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Director Guerrero? Any objection to suspension? Seeing none.
Madam President?
Director.
Thank you, City Council. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your support and cooperation in this. This is not the last piece of legislation I'll be bringing forward at some point, information I should say at some point. There are other defendants, there are other claims, and we'll deal with those as we come, but this is a great first step, and I thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Looking to assign committees for...
That was the first one.
Wait till the scouts get up here.
On first reading, Resolution 2021-46 will go into Finance. And Resolution 2021-47 will go into Environmental Control. And council members, we are going to now schedule our committee meetings. And we will start with Councilman Broussard, Vice Chair of Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. In lieu of the what would likely be a lengthy Environmental Committee meeting next week, I'd like to suggest that the Finance Committee meet before Caucus on the 17th at 7:30. And we'll discuss 2021-46.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to schedule the Environmental Control Committee meeting beginning at 6:30 on Tuesday, the 10th, please. And that I'd like to ask the mayor that any of his guests or presenters please submit their proposals, presentations, slideshows, et cetera, to all of council by Thursday, the 5th, at the close of business at council's request, not my request, sir. Thank you. They'll need time to review that proposal before the meeting.
You mean Cleveland Water?
Whoever you're intending to bring forward, sir.
It's the same proposal that you've seen before.
Well, but, sir, I think we've had this discussion before. It's not up to us to say that these are the documents. It's up to you to say these are the documents. So if you would submit them, you or Cleveland Water, whoever it is,
It's a
whatever the set
presentation.
of
You're talking about
documents
the
are, please, just
presentation.
to council before Thursday, close of business. Thank you.
Council, anything else before we close caucus? Seeing no other updates, we will conclude our caucus meeting at 7:55 PM. Council meeting will begin at 8 PM. The council meeting of August 3rd, 2021 will now please come to order. The audience is invited to join council in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Broussard?
Present.
Mr. Glassburn?
Here.
Ms. Heeman?
Here.
Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Limpert?
Present.
Mr. Schuman? Ms. Williamson?
Here.
If there are no additions or corrections, the council meeting minutes of June 15th, 2021 are approved as written. The following legislation will be considered for suspension of the rules this evening. On first reading, ordinance 2021-48. Mayor, do you have a report this evening?
Madam President, I do. Last week, I authorized the Service Department to pick up yard waste, and because Republic wasn't going to get to it, and we are billing Republic for our services. Recreation is rounding the corner on summer programming and getting ready for fall. A successful but rainy softball and baseball season has come to an end. Summer day camp has a few more weeks left, and summer skating programs will continue through August. Learn to swim classes are wrapping up as well. Fall programming information will be released next week with registration beginning August 23rd. Summer in the city continues this August with yoga in the park, the West Side Flea, an outdoor movie, and the Big Bike Bash. The finale event is North Olmsted's Community Council Homecoming Parade on Sunday, August 29th. The parade steps off at 1 o'clock, and festivities include food, music, a car show. A car show will follow at North Olmsted Park, and it will go until 5. And in planning, quite a few roadways, bridges, and utility projects are creating temporary inconveniences for folks getting around town this construction season. Thanks for your continued patience in finding alternative routes and driving safely through work zones. We'll continue to post construction updates on our website as work progresses. And Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Law Director Garreau, do you have a report this evening?
Thank you, Madam President. I do. First, a little bit of bragging for Mr. O'Malley. I don't know if you were aware that my Assistant Director of Law, Brian O'Malley, is the 2021 North Olmsted Citizen of the Year here in North Olmsted. I could not think of a more worthy individual who is constantly involved in the community through St. Richard's, through St. Clarence. His kids were in school, through the Community Council, through the Democratic Club. You name the entity and organization, he's been involved with it. He's the first one to say, how can I help? And that is something that I'm very proud to have him working on our staff, and I'm glad he's with me. However, 2 days after he received that, while we were discussing the very issue in our office, my phone rang, and it was, I found out that he is the 2021 St. Edward League of Eagles Man of the Year. So Mr. O'Malley had a very, very good week, and you got a twofer. Brian O'Malley is the Assistant Director of Law here in North Olmsted. Right. So, so an update on the situation with the dogs. I think most of you are aware last week that Ms. Ramos Martinez was a no-show for her court appearance. I found that to be a bit odd because she had an attorney at least make an initial appearance, and neither she nor the attorney were present, which led me to conclude in my mind that perhaps there was some sort of a scheduling and notification problem, maybe on the attorney's part, not so much the court's part. A capias, which is a warrant for her arrest, was issued. That capias and warrant was recalled today. Her attorney did in fact file a motion to recall the capias, and the court did grant that, and it was recalled. So there is no warrant out for her arrest at this point in time, which is what the capias is. So I don't know what happened, but for whatever reason, neither the attorney nor her client were there. And I don't know what the explanation was, but it was apparently sufficient to the court. The court granted that motion, and the warrant was recalled. No additional date has been set in Rocky River. To be clear, the Rocky River case is pending. There were 5 additional ones, but those 5 of them were dismissed because it was an error. There's a total of 5 at-large under the city code, another 5 at-large under the city code, and then there's one one failure to maintain reasonable control of your dog, which is a misdemeanor under state code. There is an additional first-degree misdemeanor that carries up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine maximum for a violation of the order when she was ordered to surrender the dogs for humane disposition. That has now been filed with the court and is pending service. In addition, as I said I would do at one of our meetings, probably back at in June, I indicated that we were exploring and if possible would be filing an action in the Common Pleas Court. We have filed in the Common Pleas Court a complaint for enforcement of the animal impoundment, classification, and humane termination orders. Those matters were filed just this week, and they are pending before Judge Emily Hagan in the Court of Common Pleas. There is no date pending as of yet that would give enforcement authority outside the jurisdiction of the City of North Olmsted and within the territory of Cuyahoga County. So that's where things stand with respect to that particular issue here in the City of North Olmsted as of today. No new dates in Rocky River set, no new date yet on the first-degree misdemeanor charge for an appearance, and waiting on service and a first hearing scheduled in the Common Pleas Court on the injunctive relief that we've requested. Okay. We had over the break, we had an employee at the Relax Spa on Brook Park Road Extension was arrested for prostitution. The North Olmsted Division of Police opened an investigation based upon a complaint. The City of North Olmsted Law Department with the Division of Police worked together with the West Shore Enforcement Bureau, conducted a sting. An individual that is employed there was arrested for prostitution. She's been brought up on charges in Rocky River Municipal Court. As a result of that, there was a false representation that was a licensed massage therapist that was performing services there. That was not the case. Director Lieber, working with us, revoked the zoning certificate of occupancy, issued a cease and desist order. That establishment, as of today, is closed, and it's our intention to keep it closed. I don't think it was, in my opinion, a legitimate massage establishment. It never was going to be. It was misrepresented to the city, and it is no more, and we intend to keep it that way. We also brought an injunctive action over the break against an individual that lives on Edge Park Drive for a violation of the zoning code. This is a repeat offender. The first offenses were property maintenance for just untold amounts of debris all over the yard. This one, it was kind of running a business, somehow wooden pallets, bicycles, and lawnmowers. Dozens, if not close to 100 of them all over the place, which was generating a number of complaints from surrounding properties. That was brought to the court, and there's been an order for that to cease and to use it as a residential property because that's what it's supposed to be. It's not being used that way, and it will be now under a court order. Kelly Patrick, I mentioned this earlier some time ago. Kelly Patrick had brought a lawsuit against the City of North Olmsted, alleging that we had violated the public records law that was in the Ohio Court of Claims. That matter was fully briefed. The special master heard the evidence, issued a recommendation that there was no violation by the City of North Olmsted. That became a final order of the court, and that case is now closed. So the City of North Olmsted was successful in defending that claim. However, 2 days before she lost her public records case, she filed an action in the United States Federal District Court for the Northern District of Ohio, Eastern Division, and sued me, Prosecutor Gordillo, and Detective Chuck Fiorito on a host of what I can only characterize as patently frivolous claims, one of which relates to conduct that took place in 2009 when I, as law director, allegedly did something when in fact I was not the law director until 2010. I can tell you that those claims are now submitted to Insurance Defense Counsel. They will be vigorously defended. They are completely without merit. I've instructed the Insurance Defense Counsel to the extent possible to seek recovery of any cost of litigation from Ms. Patrick that we have to spend. This is taxpayers' money. We're going to have to spend it on a claim, some sort of a wild, made-up, manufactured claim that's the claim, with hundreds of pages of exhibits that as far as I can tell, mean nothing. And we're going to ask for our money back if we can get it. So this week an answer has been filed, and Insurance Defense Counsel Mr. Clymer has filed on behalf of the City of North Olmsted, on behalf of myself, Mr. Gordillo, and Detective Fiorito, a motion for judgment on the pleadings asking that the case be thrown out. The Next one is the State XREL AN versus Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. This was a strange case where we have an individual concerning a prosecution that he believes should have taken place 20 years ago, brought an action against the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office to compel prosecution, and also sued the city of North Olmsted. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because it happened last year too. And the first case was brought last year. We defended that successfully. It was, in fact, thrown out. That an appeal was taken to the Ohio Supreme Court as a matter of right. That case, that appeal was denied after we briefed it. The city was successful. And last I checked, he has filed a motion to reconsider for the Supreme Court's unanimous court to reconsider its just released decision about whether or not it got it right the first time. So I think we'll probably be successful there, but I'm happy to report that that should be the end of that particular case. It's been a few years and it's odd. I think if you may remember last year, there were some people angry with some orders issued by the governor, and they sought to compel prosecution of certain government officials. It was the same statute that's involved, where private citizens can seek to compel the prosecution of an individual for whatever crime they believe may have been committed. It's that same statute, if any of you recall, when that took place last year during this year and last year during the pandemic and executive orders and things like that. So in our case, we were successful. I know the state case didn't go anywhere either, but I was certainly pleased to see that result. And thank you for the lengthy report, Madam President. I hope everybody had a good break, and I'm glad to be back. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, and congratulations again to Assistant Law Director O'Malley on behalf of all of council.
Thank you.
Finance Director Kopfer, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, I do, Madam President. First, I offered Brian O'Malley congratulations, but you forgot to mention that he was also on the Arts Commission and serves actively on our Arts Commission.
There you go.
And was part of our bicentennial committee as well. The May month-end and year-to-date summary and detailed financial reports were emailed to the administration, council, and others on July 9th. As always, if anyone has any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to call or email me anytime. The comprehensive annual financial report for 12/31/2020 was filed with the Auditor of State at the end of June and was released by the Auditor's Office on July 15th. It resides now on our city website under the Department of Finance and then reports, along with all the other years. And additionally, the City of North Olmsted's popular annual financial report for December 31st, 2020 was published on Friday, July 23rd, and that as well resides on the city's website in the same area as above. And a notice was sent out via the city text message alerts, and you'd be happy to know that approximately 3,975 phone numbers receive our text messages, which isn't the same as mailing it to everyone, which we normally do, but because of budget constraints, I think it's more than I expected, so I'm pleased with that. And one of the judging criteria for getting the award is the distribution, like how much you distribute it to. So it'll help us in that manner as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving into council committee reports. The Committee of the Whole met today, Tuesday, August 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Present were all of council except for Councilman Schuman, the mayor, law director, human resources director, planning director, and our clerk of council. First, the clerk of council gave a brief update on the ward redistricting here in North Olmsted. Council then met regarding the computer network in the city, as the city server has gone down in late June and then again for most of the month of July, causing IT to spend approximately 400 hours repairing the server. Council will schedule another committee of the whole meeting to continue discussion of this issue in depth with the administration, and that meeting ended at 7:37 p.m. Councilman Broussard, Chairman of the Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williamson, Chairwoman of the Building, Zoning, and Development Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilman Broussard, as Vice Chairman of the Finance Committee, do you have a report this evening?
We do not. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert, Chairman of the Streets and Transportation Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman, Chairwoman of the Environmental Control Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Glassburn, Chairman of the Intragovernmental Relations Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kelly, Chairman of the Recreation, Public Parks, and Buildings Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I have no report, Madam President, but I'd like a moment of personal privilege.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
I have a question for the administration. On Monday, I got a couple of phone calls from residents on West 231st Street between Lorraine and Alexander. There were a number of vehicles received parking citations at approximately 11 a.m., mostly regarding parking partly on the street and partly on the tree lawn area. One of the residents went out to talk to the police officer, who he said was very nice, very professional, and said that any vehicles seen parking on the tree lawn area would be cited, and that no tires should go past the white line on the edge of the street. West 231st has a double yellow line on it, and I actually did speak to the police chief, who stated, as far as he knew, you cannot park on any street that has a double yellow line. So what the police has told the residents that asked on West 231st sounds like there's absolutely no parking allowed at all. There are no signs posted on the side of the street that would allow parking. So at this point, the residents aren't sure what to do, because they've been parking on the side of that street since I can remember. And I guess what I'm asking the administration is, can we look into this and see what the rule is going to be about parking on West 231st, and maybe a moratorium on more citations for people that are parked out in front of their houses for a short term, except for very flagrant violations such as left side to curb or overnight parking. I've asked Clerk Massarello to check previous minutes. There were, in the year 2000 and the year 2001, Council had actually looked at this issue on West 231st, but that's as far as he's gotten so far, because catching up from our time off. But there was it was actually Councilman Garreau at the time. They had they were looking at putting no parking signs on the street, which would prohibit any parking at all on that section of street. Then that was ordinance 2100. That was tabled, and so far we haven't gotten past that to see if anything was done after that point. So I guess what I'm asking the administration is, can we just see what the rules are going to be for parking on West 231st, so the residents can be properly notified and no more citations are handed out at this time?
Madam President?
Mayor.
If I could, I'll meet with the chief on this issue, and we'll get back to you on it.
Thanks. So I had a question from the residents. They're not sure what to do now, because there's so many new people that live on that street that do park out in front of their houses, partially on the street and partially on the tree lawn area, some of those which have gravel. Now everybody's afraid that they're going to get a citation if that particular police officer comes down and decides to enforce that again. So,
Madam President, if I could, what did the chief have to say? This is the first I'm hearing of this issue.
So the chief is in training, so he wasn't in town when I did talk to him, and he talked to the captain, who said, and what I told you was there were some citations made for left side to curb, but there were also citations done for just parking. I'm just wondering if we could hold off on any more citations during the day when the people are parked in front of their house until we get a final ruling on how this is going to go.
We can get that done. It might have been a neighbor that called. I don't know. I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Are there any letters or communications to come before council at this time?
No, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us at our council meeting this evening. It is wonderful to see everyone in person again. If there is anyone in the audience that would like to address council, please approach the podium. State your name and your address for our clerk. If you live in a city other than North Olmsted, please state the name of that city and proceed with your comments. You have 5 minutes to address council.
Thank you, Jeff Sturgeon, 3092 West Street 31. Regarding what Councilman Kelly was stating, back in 2000, there was discussion over this. I think it probably would be a good time now or in the future to reopen discussion with this. If you look back at the minutes at that, nobody on council was on council back then. Tom O'Grady was the safety chairman at the time, and what came out of that meeting was that the city ended up putting 2 to 3 foot of crushed stone on the parking side of the street, the non-hydrant side, which would be the east side of the road. And it was recommended that people pull over as far as possible so their cars are not in the way. Councilman Kelly is correct. It was tabled in December of 2001, I believe it was when it was tabled, and it was left at that. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Director Groh, that you were the councilman and you wrote a proposal up for this, and because at that time people were complaining about parking on that street and the way it's always, I've been on that street for 32 years, and sometimes there's people that park willy-nilly on there. It's kind of sad, but it happens.
I think, Madam President. if
Director.
I may, as I recall, and I talked to Councilman Kelly, I think that we were talking it through, I was recalling that the crushed stone was put down, but that there was also an issue with respect to people parking in front of other people's homes, and the sideway, the right-of-way area had just been restored, and some people had finished it and grassed it, and then people would pull on it and leave giant ruts, and everybody was getting in a big fight about it. So I think that was kind of the origin of that discussion. It was the crushed stone parking area, and then it was people parking not in front of their own house, but obviously on one side of the street you can't, but parking in front of others. Some people were very meticulous with their lawn care and got quite upset about it, and it was more than one person. And I think that's the origin of that discussion back then.
And it was also at that time that there was ditches, used to be ditches on both sides of the street.
Before they were culverted, okay.
Culverts, and those are where that was filled in. And it was shortly after that all this started to happen. And it's been a dead subject for 21 years, up until, actually, yesterday it was. But honestly, even before yesterday, I live at the south end of 231. At the north end, you get parking all over the place going on up there. And there, Mr. Kelly is correct, there is some people that their whole tree lawn is gravelled. Other people have put stakes in the tree lawn, other people don't. And where this crushed stone was put in, that were 2 to 3 feet over the last 21 years, it's disappeared, it's gone. I mean, from the snow plow and stuff. So now the grass is almost up in many places all the way to the street. So when the officer was telling people he wanted everybody inside the street on that white line, which really I'm kind of shocked. It seemed like he'd be better off moved over. But what I think that it'd be important if there could be maybe some public discussion on this, and maybe some talk on it, because at that same time there was talk of 231 has 2 S-turns in it, okay, and possibly not allowing parking on those 2 S-turns. 231 is a double yellow line. Now, I don't know legally if you can park on a yellow double line. I do know, I just happened before I came up here in Fairview, 220 is a double yellow line and there's parking on it. So I'm assuming you are allowed. I don't know. Maybe and if it is, why is 231 a double yellow line? It seems like it's a side street. Who makes up these decisions? I mean, most of our side streets that are 25 miles an hour have no line on them. But for whatever reason, 231 has a double. You go down Alexander, there's nothing. You go down Co, or most streets that are 25 miles an hour, there's no yellow line, period. So I don't even know why we have one. So I think there's a lot of different unanswered questions, and it might be something that maybe, from a safety point of view, that something could be discussed.
1 minute left, Mr. Sturgeon.
Okay. Last thing I wanted to ask is, can you give me any kind of update as far as what's happening with the bathrooms at Clague Park? I know in January, we mentioned that new bathrooms are going to be built at Clague Park, and just wondering if there's an update of when things might start and maybe be finalized.
Did you have something?
Director Lieber.
Thank you. We're in the engineering process.
Pardon me?
So we're in the engineering process right now. So when we're ready to go out to bid, that package will come to City Council.
Okay. Are you expecting maybe by next summer be done, or?
Yes, that would be we might be able to start still at the end of this year if weather cooperates and if we can get good bids, but we know construction's hot right now, so we might bide our time to wait for a time where we think we could maximize our value. But yes, I would say definitely by next summer.
All right, thank you. All right, and just again, if I could highly recommend that maybe council, I don't know who would be able to do it, if you'd even consider doing it, some kind of public meeting discussion of something to be done with 231's parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgeon.
I have to take this off. I can't talk with this thing on. Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My concern is
Your name and address,
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry. Marjorie Bowden, 23492 Marion Road.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. My concern is, I was attacked by 5 pit bulls in my own yard, weeding. They're running loose, no collars, no shots. That happened on May 23rd. It's now August. What's going on with this? Is anything being done? Anything being done?
Madam President?
Director Guru.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowden. I just gave that report, and it provided an update about what we were doing up till now. So I'll go ahead and repeat that.
Yeah, please do,
here.
because I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, it's very I feel like I'm in a box here. So
I know,
as you
I can
tell,
imagine.
I
No
wasn't
problem, thank
Wasn't
you.
expecting this wall next to me, so
Yeah.
I fell on the floor.
Yeah.
Maybe get some clips for that. And I did leave off one thing. So as I mentioned earlier, the defendant, Ms. Ramos Martinez, did not appear in court last week.
Okay.
She was required to. She did not. A capias, which is a warrant for her arrest, was issued. Standard procedure in any municipal court. Her attorney came forward and filed a motion to recall that warrant, standard procedure, and the court granted that motion and the warrant was recalled. There's no further date been set for her. We would expect a pretrial to come forward very shortly, where she's going to be required to appear with her attorney to discuss the matter with our prosecutor, my prosecutor, Michael Gordillo. And so there's a total of five counts for the first break, 5 counts for the second time. They're all minor misdemeanors. They're all $150 fines. And there's 1 state count under Revised Code 955-22C2. That's for the dog that bit the police officer. And there's some different issues with respect to state versus city, which I'm not going to get into. But there's some enhancement provisions if this happens again with the state code that could cause her to suffer additional penalties should her dogs get loose again. We are filing, it should be filed now, a first-degree misdemeanor complaint for her failure to comply with the order issued by the City of North Olmsted. That carries a maximum penalty of 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine. That's not to say she's going to get 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine, but that is the possible penalty that could be levied. We prepared and filed in the Court of Common Pleas a complaint to get the authority of the Common Pleas Court to enjoin her from continuing to have these dogs and to force her to surrender the dogs for the dogs to be disposed of as pursuant to the order. So the one thing I forgot to mention is that other people have asked why we didn't do it, is that we did attempt to seek a warrant to enter the home to attempt to locate the dogs, and that attempt was denied. So at that point, that's pretty much what, as far as the city law department could do. Now, in terms of timing and why we are where we are, if you were lucky enough to be here listening to our earlier meeting, you'll hear about a server shutdown for a significant period of time. I believe our animal control officer was unavailable due to illness for a period of time. There was some appeal rights available to the defendant in this case that had to expire before we took further action. So yes, it's taken a little bit of time, but it's our hope that we've now got in place the proper actions to ensure that the relief that we sought is carried out. So that's the plan where we are right now. I can assure you, though, it's going to take more time because you have to get service on these people. You saw her on TV. You saw her in person. She walked out the door and vanished. And we have to find her. We know she's coming to court, so she'll be here soon. And we can perhaps have proper service on some of these other actions filed against, served on her as required by law. But it's going to take a little bit of time. My understanding is that the dogs were not in North Olmsted. I think somebody had made a complaint. It was anonymous that the dogs were here. But my understanding, the dogs have been relocated to another community. I understand the dogs, there may be an address in Cleveland that they're located at. At least that's what she advised the county health board, that they may be in Cleveland, but I'm hearing that secondhand. So as far as the city's concerned, we're going to continue to aggressively enforce and pursue whatever remedy we have available to us. It's an outrageous breach of the peace. She should not, this should never have happened to you, and I'm sorry that it did. And your neighbors that were also affected.
Right.
And it shouldn't happen. And I know you from years ago. I know you're a dog lover. I know that. I've had conversations with you about your love of animals.
Right.
And it's very unfortunate that this situation came about. You don't need me to tell you that, but it's also unfortunate that it happened to you, who has such a affinity for dogs. And so we're going to keep doing our very best. I promise that we'll keep working on it, and we'll exhaust every effort we can to make sure that you get the justice that you're looking for. Okay?
You know, I was going to tell you, Mike, that I used to train dogs.
I know.
And I trained dogs for 30 years, and I never got bit by one of the dogs that I trained.
Yeah.
You know why? Because it's the owner.
It is.
It's more the owner than the dogs.
It is.
Now, one thing I want to mention is on May 23rd, when we had a hearing here with Brian O'Malley and Carrie, she came back to basically verbally attack me, called me a hypochondriac. I think, and I've talked to a couple police officers in different communities, she should have been arrested for disorderly conduct. And all they did is they went in towards her because maybe she was going to slug me, I don't know. But I don't understand why she wasn't arrested for that. I mean, if anybody else did that in this room, we'd be arrested. Why is she getting special treatment?
Well, I want, Madam President, if I may.
Director.
I want to assure you, she's not getting special treatment. I can't speak for the judgment of the officers at that time as to why they didn't take her into custody. And I know that I can't recall an instance where we've had a situation like that in a public hearing or a public meeting. But I implore you to let us continue to try to get the justice that you want. I know she's not getting special treatment. If she was getting special treatment, she wouldn't have 11 counts against her at Rocky River. She's looking at a lawsuit downtown. She's got O'Malley chasing all over Caucus County trying to get these dogs. We're doing what we can to try to make sure that you get your what you're entitled to, and we're going to keep doing it. I promise you. But it's not special treatment. I wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't let someone do that to you and try to claim they were going to get away with it. It's not going to happen.
Well, that has bothered me ever since.
Well, I'm sorry.
Because I'll tell you what, someone, and you're saying Brian O'Malley's the one that's majorly in charge of all this?
He is.
He's in charge, okay. I can't believe if the police are chasing a criminal, and she's basically a criminal right at this point, why they can't locate her. I mean, don't they signal the other communities? Bay Village, Westlake, Rocky River, don't they signal all those guys and say, look out for this license plate. I have her license plate. When I drove by one day, I wrote down her license plate. That's what the police should do. I just don't feel that they're doing their job. I don't know. But another question I have here. The License Bureau, when she goes to get her tag, her sticker type thing, would they be able to pull up on the computer that she has a warrant? But you said now it's canceled.
Yeah, it is canceled.
But if she did have a warrant, though, would they be able to?
You can get warrant registration blocks to show up when license renewals, that can happen.
It can happen, okay. I wanted to know that, too, okay. Just a couple more things here. Now, she keeps getting these continuance. She keeps calling and saying, I want to put it off and how many can she get totally?
Director?
Roughly?
Sorry. The first one wasn't a continuance request, it was she didn't bother showing up. So it was a no-call, no-show. That's a no-no, you can't do that. So the court will grant reasonable continuances for cause. If there's an issue for not being available for court that day, they'll accommodate you within reason. I mean, these cases have a life. They have a docket.
Right.
The court wants you to get rid of these cases and dispose of them. Mm-hmm. So I would expect that it would proceed as it normally would. If the attorney has a conflict or there's some legitimate reason expressed to the court and the court believes the reason is well-founded, the court will typically, as a matter of course, grant such a continuance. So I don't think she's got a continuance yet. She just didn't show up. So we'll see what happens with the next one.
Okay, but I just was wondering if there's some kind of limit, like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe a dozen, I mean.
It's more about time than it is, some courts, depending on how heavy their dockets are, can schedule cases very, very quickly.
Okay.
I know the felony docket and common pleas, where some of my colleagues work down there, they get those things moving quick, and they go very, very fast. But here, the number of local level offenses and how heavy the dockets are, they can go a little slower.
I see.
1 minute, Ms. Bowden?
Pardon?
1 minute?
Sure. Oh, 1 more minute, okay. Basically, this whole incident has been like a real circus. I mean, really, a joke. I mean, I feel like we could probably make a movie out of this after a while. But, I have to go to bed every night worrying about if the dogs are going to be at my side door when I walk out the side door. I have a lot of heavy medication I'm on. I've been not only to emergency, but I've also been to my doctor twice. And he keeps telling me, let the police handle it, but I said, I wish the police were handling it. And also, when I've called the prosecutor a couple times, he's never returned my call. Is that normal? He doesn't talk to people, or?
Well, I'll be happy to ask him to give you a call back, okay?
He will call me back? I would
will-
appreciate it.
Sure.
He didn't call my attorney back either.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I will ask him to return that phone call.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mike. By the way, I know your relatives. They were standing behind me in line when we went to Mackinac Island. Mary?
Oh, okay. Wow,
Yeah.
small world.
It is a small world. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name's Aaron Campbell. I live at 6316 Brighton Drive. And my reason for speaking today is to comment on Resolution 2021-47 brought by Mayor Kennedy to join Cleveland Water's Suburban Water Main Renewal Program, something that we're all familiar with. So I've carefully reviewed this proposal and see it as a way to tap into millions of dollars of investment money for our city that we would otherwise have to come up with ourselves. The reason Cleveland Water is eager to make these investments is because it's obvious to them that cities like ours have no plans or funds to replace this aging infrastructure. They've done the cost-benefit analysis and find that it would be better if they replace the pipes themselves rather than get stuck repairing pipe failures for the unforeseeable future. This proposal has been debated for years now, and the arguments against joining the program ring hollow. The primary reason given by members of this council for not joining was due to the litigation between Westlake and Cleveland Water. It's true that the water from Crown Filtration Plant located in Westlake but owned by Cleveland Water must travel through Westlake to reach North Olmsted. but neither me nor likely the members of this council believe that Westlake could legally cut off North Olmsted from our water source. Now, a judge ruled in favor of Westlake in July of 2020, but Westlake continues to get their water from Cleveland Water. To understand why Westlake is not likely to change suppliers, we must understand this infrastructure. The Crown Filtration Plant is a 115 million gallon plant with 4 other plants to back it up in the water system. The alternative for Westlake is Avon Lake's 50 million gallon standalone plant that is supporting urban sprawl to the west. If the Avon Lake plant goes down due to freezing or an algae bloom, there is no redundancy to ensure continuous supply of water. In addition, to leave Cleveland Water, a community would need to replace all of their water meters, which for a city like Westlake or North Olmsted would cost in excess of $1 million. It's certain that Westlake understands these facts and will continue to keep open their water mains to the Crown Filtration Plant. But it's all really beside the point, because there are no alternatives for North Olmsted to get our water. Our only option is Cleveland Water. So we have been passing up millions of dollars of potential infrastructure investment for no good reason. Over the next couple decades, it is estimated that our city will need as much as $30 million of water pipe replacements. So my question to this council is, if we are not going to join the program and tap into this infrastructure funding, how are we going to pay for replacing our pipes? There are only 2 possible answers to this question. Either we join the program, or the citizens of North Olmsted will have to pay the bill, which will certainly result in tax increases. So I'd like to hear from members of council on this question. Thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of council, city administration, appreciate the opportunity to make a comment. My name is Alejandro Chock, ALEJANDROCHOCK. I live at 24677 Randall Drive, Ward 4. And I'm here to talk in support of the Cleveland Water Agreement. What is disappointing about City Council's previously stated negative position on the Cleveland Water Agreement is its lack of vision for the future. North Olmsted City Council uses ongoing litigation between the City of Cleveland and the City of Westlake to avoid addressing the actual issue here. The issue is not where our water comes from or who is providing it. It never was, it never will be. But the issue has nothing to do with wastewater treatment. The critical issue at hand in this debate is the $30 million liability sitting beneath our feet. Regardless of where your water comes from, Cleveland, Avon Lake, Berea, if North Olmsted owns the physical water lines, North Olmsted taxpayers are responsible for the cost of replacement, to the tune of over $30 million over the next 2 decades. But for the sake of argument, let's explore City Council's fascination with Avon Lake water, a system 1/5 the size of Cleveland Water. Is this council ready to trust our drinking water to a system that would be doubling in size overnight? Is this council prepared to stand by Avon Lake Water's lack of critical distribution redundancies that could result in extended water shutoff periods if problems arise? Further, is this council ready to state on the record that Avon Lake Water will assume the cost of replacing water lines in North Olmsted that have met or exceeded their service life? Because that is the issue here. North Olmsted City Council insists that the city maintain ownership over these water lines, scaring residents with the term eminent domain, while hiding from the residents that maintaining ownership of the physical water lines which have no value beyond scrap, means that North Olmsted taxpayers are on the hook for over $30 million over the next 2 decades. That would be the largest tax increase in the history of the city of North Olmsted. Courtesy of this city council. For North Olmsted's future, the political organization run by Ward 2 Councilman Chris Glassburn quotes my councilwoman, Mary Ellen Heeman, as saying that, quote, cities only sign on to the Cleveland Water Agreement when they have no choice, unquote. So I ask this council, did Fairview Park have no choice? Did Olmsted Falls have no choice? Did Rocky River have no choice? Did Brunswick have no choice? Those are just 4 of the 40-plus communities that are in this program, and property values, economic standing, and water service in these communities has not suffered one bit. In fact, those communities sincerely appreciate the money provided by North Olmsted ratepayers that was used to replace water lines in their community instead of ours. What's unfortunate is that North Olmsted City Council, campaigning this year as for North Olmsted's future, in fact has no plan for North Olmsted's future. If it's politically convenient, North Olmsted City Council is prepared to kick this can down the road once again, having already lost $4 million since 2019. North Olmsted City Council is apparently prepared to place the burden of these improvements on future generations of residents, rather than addressing the issue directly. Sadly, this is the story of North Olmsted City Council, a forum whose loudest voices would exchange perceived short-term gain for an actual long-term loss if they can sell that to their voters. This is not courage. This is not leadership. This just puts our community that much farther behind. Thank you.
Madam President. May I make a
Councilman
comment?
Lippert?
May I make a comment?
Yes.
Just so those in the public are aware, there's 3 people sitting up here that are not running for office or campaigning, and we are not, North Olmsted City Council, running on any kind of agenda or information. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Seeing no other comments from our audience, we will now move into legislation.
Legislation on first reading. Resolution 2021-46. A resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to solicit proposals for excess insurance coverage for the city healthcare and hospitalization plans for 2022, and further authorizing the mayor, subject to approval of the Board of Control, to enter into a contract for said insurance coverage.
Madam President,
Mayor,
I'd like to introduce and place on first reading.
thank you.
Resolution 2021-47. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into agreements with the City of Cleveland, Division of Water, to establish a municipal utilities district, to restate the water services agreement, and to provide for the transfer of water utility assets from the City of North Olmsted.
Madam President,
Mayor,
on behalf of myself and Councilman Paul Schuman, I'd like to introduce and place on first reading.
thank you.
Ordinance 2021-48. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Law to execute all documents on behalf of the City of North Olmsted to authorize settlement of claims arising from opioid litigation and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Mayor,
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review. Anybody?
is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Madam President,
Councilwoman Heeman.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings regarding 2021-48, as this was discussed at our caucus this evening, and we are under advisement by our law director that he will have additional information, but that this portion of the legislation needed to move forward in order to move on with the settlement agreement, and I ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 6-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding ordinance 2021-48, please approach the podium.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Heeman.
seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to adopt 2021-48 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2021-48 made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-48 is adopted with a vote of 6-0. Moving into scheduling council committee meetings, Councilwoman Heeman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to schedule an Environmental Control Committee meeting for Tuesday, August 10th at 6:30 PM to discuss 2021-47 and ask that the mayor have his presenters submit anything that they intend on bringing to that meeting to council before August 5th by the close of business, so that council has the opportunity to review the entire presentation and formulate any questions or comments they may have in preparation for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Broussard.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to schedule a Finance Committee meeting on August 17th at 7:30 to discuss 2021-46, and I'll ask that the mayor or his designee be present. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor to excuse the absence of Councilman Schuman from tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to excuse the absence of Councilman Schuman from tonight's meeting made by Councilwoman Williamson, seconded by Councilman Limpert. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Schuman has been excused from tonight's meeting with a vote of 6-0. With the agenda being completed and there being no further business to come before council, this meeting of August 3rd, 2021 is adjourned at 8:51 p.m.